Good evening, members, and welcome to today's training session. Today, we're going to look at project risk management by our trainer, uh, Mr. Ronald. So, if you're new here, this is a project management training session that is organized by this. Let me just admit a few people. Okay, this is a training that is managed by Basket One Consulting, and it is meant to equip professionals and organizations on practical and relevant skills in today's business environment. So you're welcome to today's session, and I will quickly invite Mr. Ronald to take over the training in the interest of time. The training is recorded, and you are free to ask questions as we proceed with the training. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Diana. Hopefully, we can have members. We can wait for other members while we get someone to take us through what we went through in the previous session. Any volunteer, please, while we wait for other members. Can give them around 5 minutes. Any volunteer to take us through what we went through last session? Um, I remember last session was on project communication management. Any member to take us through while we wait for others to join in 2 minutes. Thanks. Okay, so last session we looked at project communication management. Uh, we looked at the importance of project communication management, and we had an overview of the different components. That is the sender. We had the message, medium, feedback, and also the people who are receiving the message. We looked at that. We looked at stakeholders and how we conduct our stakeholder analysis. Um, looked at effective communication strategies, and I think we concluded with issues to do around dealing with the resistance to change. Um, so basically, that is what we looked at. Sorry about the background noise. I live next to the church, so sorry about that. Um, so I guess we can start. And today we shall be looking at, shall have an introduction to project risk management. Then from there we shall understand the different risks in a project. Then we shall look at the risk management process. That includes identification of risks. We shall then look at also analysis of risks. We shall look at response planning and monitoring and controlling of risks. We shall also look at challenges in risk management, and then some best practices and tips. Then we shall also have a question and answer session. So for the starters, project risk management involves identifying, analyzing, and responding to risks that may include the success of a project. It aims to minimize the negative effects of risks while maximizing opportunities for project success. Um, the importances, some of the importances of risk management in a project include uh, ensuring project success, enhancing decision making, improving stakeholder confidence, and many more, as we are going to discuss. So, like I've said, risk management is the process of identifying, analyzing, and responding to risks that may impact our project success or objectives. So, uh, when we do this in the right way and we really manage our risks, we are able to ensure project success by increasing the likelihood of the project success and also minimizing the impacts of potential threats and maximizing opportunities. We are also able to enhance our decision making by identifying and assessing risks early in the project life cycle. Here, stakeholders can make informed decisions and allocate resources effectively because they would be knowing which areas to focus on in terms of risk. Then improving stakeholder confidence. Transparent risk management practices instill confidence in stakeholders. They demonstrate the project's team a proactive approach to addressing uncertainties, and this improves stakeholder confidence. Furthermore, it ensures that resources and investments are protected by helping project by helping project teams uh, mitigate the negative impacts of unforeseen events and reducing project failures. Project risk management also facilitates planning and contingency. It allows project teams to develop comprehensive plans and establish contingency plans to address unforeseen events effectively. It supports compliance and governance, and this is compliance with regulations and adherence to governance standards. Uh, and this facilitates systematic risk management processes, and it also reduces on legal consequences that may arise from certain risks, as we are going to see them, and also regulatory risks. It promotes learning and continuous improvement by evaluating risk management outcomes. These project managers are able to identify valuable insights for the future project, fostering a culture of learning and continuous improvement within the organization. It enhances communication and collaboration. Uh, it encourages open communication and collaboration among project stakeholders. And we shall be looking at stakeholders in 2 weeks. So these are stakeholders. When you openly communicate with them, you promote alignment and a shared understanding of the project objectives and challenges. So once the different players don't know the different project objectives and challenges, then you find that uh, the project may be doomed to failure. So project risk management basically is an integral a part to project success, as it enables proactive identification and mitigation of risks. It enhances decision-making processes and fosters stakeholder confidence, as we are going to see. So implementing effective risk management practices ensures project resilience and support uh, for the long-term success of the organizational goals. So what are these risks? We say that risks in a project refer to uncertainties that may affect the project's objectives, and these may be internal uh, or external. They may be known or unknown. Um, but what we need to know here is that for the internal risks, these are originate within the project or organization. And these may be risks like resource constraints or team conflicts, among others. So while external risks arise from factors outside the project's control, these may be issues to do with market fluctuations, say exchange rates for those working on projects that are donor funded, or regulatory changes. Uh, these may be regulatory changes uh, from the uh, uh, governments or even globally. I'll give an example. In Uganda, there were so many institutions that uh, were engaged in uh, what we call KP programming or LGBT programs. But once the laws were passed, uh, the controversial 2021 2022 bill on homosexuality, once it was passed, many institutions that were engaged in those programs had actually to adjust and do away with those programs. So still, risks may be known, or risks may not be, may be unknown. So with the known risks, these are identified and assessed during the project planning uh, cycle, during project execution, and these are properly, you'll find that usually these are properly documented in the risk registers, or risk checklists, as we are going to see those documents. And these impact the project, and they are known, and a priority has to be given to those that are high risk, as you are going to see. So the unknown risks are the unpredictable events that emerge during the project life cycle, often requiring adaptive responses. Uh, and we did look at adaptive management of projects. For those that may have missed, you can always refer to our YouTube channel and get acquainted with those. So the unknowns are things like the pandemic that happened, the COVID-19, that really halted the whole globe, and projects had to stall, and schedules had to be changed, and also the other consequences that come with such. So there are different types of risks. There are strategic risks, and these relate to the project's alignment with the organization objectives and market conditions. Uh, Basically, these are identified through the strategic planning process. Uh, Such risks are, in case the project's alignment is not within the organization's objectives or the market conditions, then uh, those risks will arise. Then we have operational risks, and these arise from the day-to-day project activities and processes. Uh, some of the common operational risks that we have in projects mainly to do with logistics and procurement, uh, and those should be really identified and taken care of during the project planning process. Then we have financial risks, and these involve budgetary constraints, funding availability, and cost overruns. We have technical risks, and these stem from technology limitations, complexity, or dependencies. You find that some institutions really don't have the technologies, and with such, you find that it raises risks. There may be uh, risks on depending on uh, external service providers, or the risks of people not knowing how to operate the different technologies that they have within the institution. Then we have uh, also different other risks, like external risks, and these are maybe environmental, natural disasters, and the like. They may be regulatory, or they may be market factors beyond the project scope that really affect the project. So these all impact the project objectives, on the schedule, on the budget, on the quality, scope, and even stakeholder satisfaction. Because at the end of it all, whether you're putting out a product or a service, at the end of it all, uh, the stakeholder should be, or the end user should be satisfied with what you are offering. So understanding the potential consequences of these risks is essential for effective risk management. So still, while we are still trying to understand uh, uh, project risks, still also have to understand some paradigms behind risk management. And like I said, with this, we have proactive risk management, which involves identifying and addressing risks before they occur. So uh, there are people that have that stance, while there is also another stance on a reactive risk management, which responds to risks as they arise. So with proactive risk management, uh, I think it is paramount for us to understand the process that undergoes that, and people that subscribe to that paradigm, and with them, they proactively identify risks by systematically identifying all potential risks through techniques like brainstorming, risk analysis, and stakeholder consultations or expert judgment. Once they do that, they analyze the risk, and they assess the likelihood and impact of the identified risks to prioritize them and develop appropriate response strategies. So once they have identified and analyzed the risks, and they have understood their level of likelihood or impact on the project, they move forth and plan on how they will proactively mitigate these risks. And they put in place measures to minimize the impact of the risks on the project objectives. Once they have their contingency plans in place, they move forth to implement by executing their risk response plans and continuously monitoring the project environment for new risks or changes in the existing ones. So the benefits is that this anticipation and preparedness for potential threats reduces negative impact on project objectives and enhances project resilience. So while as the reactive risk management paradigm takes on another stance of responding to the risks, they also have a process through which they go through to be able to respond. And here you detect, uh, you respond to risks as they occur or become apparent during the project execution. Often in crisis mode, uh, risk appears and you detect it, and you respond to it. You take immediate action to address the consequence of the risk as part of the response. In the process, and here you're implementing workaround solutions or damage control measures. Then you move on to they move on to adapting. And here you adjust project plans, schedules, and resource allocations in response to the unforeseen event or disruption that you've detected. And some of the challenges included here is limited time for decision making. You may also incur higher costs associated with this crisis and even potential negative impact on the project outcomes or even the stakeholder confidence. So it's valuable for us to extract insights from reactive response to improve our future risk identification, analysis, and proactive management practices. So, how do we choose the right approach? Here we have the proactive management, which is preferred as it allows for better preparation, reduces the likelihood and severity of the risks, and also promotes a culture of risk awareness and prevention. However, with the reactive management, it also remains necessary for addressing unforeseen events or emergencies that cannot be anticipated through proactive measures. So, as project managers, I believe that both reactive uh, and proactive risk management is essential, and understanding the processes that you need to go through to for each approach or paradigm, then would serve every project manager right. So in risk management, we say that the process is straightforward. That you identify the risk, and risk identification involves systematically identifying potential risks that may affect the project's objectives. And I will have different techniques that we can use to identify the risks. And we are going to look at them in details. These include brainstorming, using checklists, conducting SWOT analysis, where you're looking at the different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to the project. You can use expert judgment, document review, or risk registers. So, with the brainstorming process for identifying project risks, you gather project team members and stakeholders to generate a list of potential risks through open discussion and idea sharing. And once you've gathered these, you record all suggested risks on a whiteboard, can be a flip chart or a digital platform, and then you rate your risks and determine which ones have a potential influence or impact on the project. So benefits of using a brainstorming method technique include creativity and innovation in risk identification. It also includes capturing diverse perspectives and experiences from team members and stakeholders, and also promotes collaboration and engagement amongst participants. So then I will have also the technique of using checklists, and these are predetermined lists of common project risks or risk categories that help project teams systematically identify potential threats. And it also involves recording all suggested risks on a whiteboard, flip chart, or a digital platform. and still go through the process of determining the level of influence or impact on the project or interest of the different stakeholders, as we shall see. So some of these benefits include ensuring comprehensive coverage of potential risks, and provides a structured approach to risk identification, because within that, as we are going to see, the checklist, you're able to identify risks based on their different categories and types. And it saves time and effort by leveraging existing knowledge and resources. So with these checklists, sometimes they also have matrices that go with them, uh, and they categorize the risks to help the project teams systematically identify potential threats. They are often developed uh, uh, they are often developed using industry standards, best practices, and lessons learned from prior projects. So here's a sample checklist. Uh, it has the strategy, and it's telling you what are the key risks of implementing the project, and how are you going to manage them. And they're telling you that larger or higher value projects will require a full risk management strategy. And they're telling you that you should consider whether one is needed for this project. So yeah, basically this one is relying on industry standards. And with this, they're looking at different risks. They're looking at personnel, programmatic performance, accounting systems, and internal. Uh, this excerpt I got from one of the proposals I wrote recently, and the risks that we assessed were mainly internal for the institution, and we looked at how their impact if these risks are realized. And based on the institutions that I was writing a proposal for, were able to identify that the accounting systems and performance had a high um, likelihood of failure at donor requirements. However, also the donor had emphasized that they needed to build capacity of the project. So likelihood of impact on the project, if they happened, if accounting systems failed, the impact would be high. By likelihood of happening, because they had the manual systems in place, that would keep the risks low. So we defined how these risks would be managed and monitored, and what mitigation actions, and who would own the risk. And in case the risk happened, who would that risk be escalated to? So we also indicated the different actors who manage this risk in case escalation is needed. So basically, that is one of the checklists that you can use. But we also have a SWOT analysis for identifying risks. And as we know, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats technique is used to identify the project's internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as external opportunities and threats. And when we come to risk management identification, we are focusing on threats identified during the analysis represent potential project risks. So how this happens, you gather project team members and stakeholders to identify the project's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. And you focus on the threats identified to uncover potential risks. It has also some benefits with it, and these include it integrates risks identified with the strategic planning process. It provides a holistic view of the project's internal and external environment. Then it enhances decision making by considering both positive and negative factors influencing the project. So that is it about a SWOT analysis for identifying risks. Then we have expert judgment, and here we seek input from subject matter experts or experienced individuals within the organization or even externally to identify potential risks based on their knowledge and experience or expertise. And how this happens is through consultation with experts in the relevant areas, such as the technical domains. If there are operational risks that you want to look at, then you should get programs directors and managers and all project managers to support on this. If it is industry regulations, then you should get legal experts uh, on within the industry. And if it is risks within the project, then you get the different senior management team for the project to identify these potential risks. So some of the benefits of using expert judgment include it leverages the insights and experience of knowledgeable individuals that provide uh, accurate or information based on their experience. It also enhances the accuracy of risk identification by tapping into specialized expertise. If you happen to use experts, then it also provides context for the risk analysis and response planning, as these individuals are highly experienced in risk uh, management. So we have another technique for identifying risks, which is the document review, and it involves examining project documentation, such as project plans, requirements, contracts, and lessons learned from previous projects to identify potential risks. And this also highlights the need for project managers here to be keen on documentation and knowledge management practices within uh, uh, the institution and within the projects. So here you review the project documents to identify potential risks based on historical data. Also look at project specific information and documented constraints and dependencies from previous projects or even other sources or similar projects being implemented elsewhere. So some of the benefits of using this is it helps identify risks based on historical data and project specific information. It also provides insights into project constraints, dependencies, and critical success factors. It also informs risk management planning by leveraging documented knowledge and experience. So then we have the risk registers, and this is a central respiratory or database used to record and track identified risks throughout the project life cycle. How you maintain this register to systematically capture and document identified risks, and then you update the risk register regularly to reflect changes in the risk status, or even include new risks or changes in the risk priorities. So some of the benefits for use include facilitates ongoing risk management activities by proactively providing a central repository for risk information. It also enables prioritization and tracking of risks throughout the project life cycle, and it provides a historical record of risks related to decisions and actions for future reference and analysis. I'll show you a sample of risk register we've used on a USAID supported project. Sorry about this. Let's look at this. I thought I'd saved it on the desktop, but unfortunately it's not here. But we can always get time, and I'll share that while I'm sharing the slides. I'll include that sample risk register. So next we have uh, importance of involving stakeholders in risk management and identification specifically. Uh, so these are engaging these are different individuals or groups with vested interest in the project to contribute to their uh, to contribute their perspective or insights and experience in identifying risks is essential, and all project managers here should have that in mind. So why would you want to engage other stakeholders in risk identification? uh, One is that you are able to uh, get diverse perspectives, as different stakeholders bring different perspectives, experiences, and knowledge to the risk identification process based on their roles, based on their responsibilities, and also the interests in the project. Uh, I know I wanted that USAID project that I wanted, the risk register that I wanted to show you. We're working with an institution uh, here in Uganda, and we're supporting them build their capacity. And it was key for them to really develop this and update their risk register, because as an institution, the institution I was working with was more of providing capacity building, but then they were conducting or doing the actual implementation of the project. It was on maternal child health, and as implementers, they were faced with different risks. So we engaged them, and they were able to come up with this risk register, and they were able to own and also account for all the risks that they identified. So that way, stakeholders who participate in this risk identification process are more likely to take uh, own ownership of the risk identified, and also collaborate on developing and implementing the response strategies that are needed. Uh, it also increases the fostering of the culture of shared responsibility and commitment to managing project uncertainties effectively. Since these people have been really engaged, so they own and they will account for the risks and also respond to them. So, involving stakeholders also improves risk awareness. Stakeholders who are actively engaged in the risk identification process become more attuned to project uncertainties and are better prepared to anticipate and respond to emerging risks. This enhanced risk awareness among these stakeholders promotes a culture of risk management and increases organizational resilience to project disruptions that may arise. Then we have a stakeholder engagement. Still, this builds stronger relationships and facilitates constructive dialogue about project risks and priorities and potential impact. Uh, Collaborating with with the different stakeholders in risk identification to share their concern, raise their issues, and also contribute to valuable insights leads to more effective risk management outcomes. Uh, and lastly, alignment with the project objectives. And we did talk about this that stakeholders provide input on risks that are most relevant and critical to achieving project success. Because you'll find that they are maybe the beneficiaries and they know the different constraints that the project may face uh, in providing a service or the product reaching them. And this enables the project team to focus on addressing high priority risks that have been identified by the different stakeholders. So that's it about our first step in risk management, which is risk identification. The next is risk analysis, and this involves assessing the probability and impact of the identified risks to prioritize them and develop appropriate response strategies. So, some of the tools that we have in risk analysis and that we are going to look at still in detail is qualitative risk analysis. We have quantitative risk analysis. We have sensitivity analysis. Then also expected monetary value analysis. These tools have also different techniques that are used, and we're going to look at them one by one. So, qualitative risk analysis. This assesses the likelihood and impact of the identified risks using subjective measures such as probability and severity of scales. So the techniques used here, we have risk probability and impact assessment. And here you assign subjective ratings to risks based on their likelihood of occurrence and potential impact on project objectives, like the one we saw in the checklist. Then now you have risk data quality assessment. And here we evaluate the reliability and accuracy of risk data to ensure informed decision making. And here basically looking at things to do with uh, the credibility of the data. And when we talk about credibility of data, we are looking at things to do around with its completeness, its consistency. If you're getting it from different sources, and timeliness and the like. So some of the benefits for qualitative risk analysis as a tool include it provides a rapid assessment of risks based on expert judgment and experience. It facilitates analysis and response planning, and it also enhances stakeholders' understanding of risk exposure and informs our decision making. So we also have quantitative risk analysis tools, uh, which use mathematical models and data analysis techniques to quantify the probability and potential impact of the identified risks. And with this, we have techniques like Monte Carlo simulation, uh, which simulates project outcomes based on probabilistic inputs to assess the likelihood of achieving project objectives under different scenarios. And these scenarios, we really talked about them when we are talking about the PAT method. And there are those that are pessimistic, uh, there are those that are likely, and there are those that are optimistic. And we can always use the formulas that we discussed to calculate or simulate this. I also shared the YouTube video on our WhatsApp group that members can uh, actually watch and see how Monte Carlo simulation is conducted while using Excel. Then we have decision trees. These are models model decision making processes and enhance and assess the expected values based on their potential outcomes and associated. Some of the benefits for using the quantitative risk analysis tools is tool is it provides more precise estimates of the risk exposure and potential project impacts. It also helps to quantify the cost effectiveness of risk response strategies and inform resource allocation. Because here you're working with numbers, and you can the anticipated costs that and basically that is it about the quantitative risk analysis. So we also have sensitivity analysis, and here we evaluate the sensitivity of the project outcomes to changes in key risk factors or assumptions. And here, basically, we are developing hypotheses and testing them using techniques like one-way sensitivity analysis that assesses the impact of varying one input parameter at a time on project outcomes. We are also looking at tornado diagrams that visualize the relative importance of different risk factors by ranking them based on their impact on the project outcomes. Some of the benefits here include you are able to identify critical risks, factors that have the greatest influence on the project outcomes. Sensitivity analysis also helps prioritize risk responses efforts by focusing on high impact risk factors, and it facilitates scenario analysis and contingency planning to mitigate the effects of uncertain events that may happen or impact the project. Then we have the expected monetary value analysis that calculates the expected value of different risk scenarios by multiplying the probability of occurrence by the potential impact on the project objectives. And some of the techniques here you have the risk priority number, RPN, which is calculated for each risk by multiplying the likelihood, severity, and detectability ratings. So, if you, for example, if you say that it is more likely, it is high, the likelihood of a risk to happen is high, then you have a rate for that, and at the end of it all, you multiply uh, it based also on its impact, and also how easy you can detect it. So you come up with these skills, and while for example, let me just go back. For example, while you are ranking here high, then say high is impact on the project is say 5 high, and moderate 3, and low 0. Then you're able to come up with those at the different stages of impact, likelihood, and then you probably also include a column on traceability, and then I have a rating on that. So we have also the Pareto analysis. This we've talked about, where you identify the most critical risks by prioritizing them based on their cumulative impact on the project objectives. And we did look at the Pareto graphs and how they work. So, but here you are looking at the impact on the monetary uh, value of the project. So some of the benefits here is it provides a quantitative measure of risk exposure and potential project impacts. It also facilitates a prioritization of risks based on their expected value, and contributes to project success. It also supports decision making by quantifying the cost benefit trade offs of risk response options. So, once you've identified and analyzed your risks, then you move on to response planning. Um, so, with response planning, it involves developing strategies to address identified risks, as well as developing contingency plans to deal with the unforeseen events. So, some of these strategies that we can use is you can decide to avoid the risk. Say if, for example, if it is a regulatory risk, like the one, the example I gave for the LGBT community here in Uganda, then you avoid implementing projects that focus on such areas. You can mitigate the risk. Uh, we've seen some institutions here in Uganda are trying to lobby uh, for them to be registered, even when they are known that the LGBT institutions, and at the end of it all, you find that their mitigation measures are going to court, such that they can try to address the risk. Sometimes the risks we may just have to transfer it. For example, like the one uh, on say technical risks. If you don't have the capacity, uh, you don't have the skills within the institution, say to manage the technology, then you transfer it to third parties that have the expertise and experience and can handle that. And sometimes you accept the risk and know that it is existing. So basically, those are some of the strategies that you can use. You can avoid, you can mitigate, you can transfer or accept. So effective response planning minimizes negative effects of risks on the project and maximizes opportunities for success. So while we are planning, I'll go back to the slide on the checklist because this is also a plan. You're planning how you're going to manage your risks. You should incorporate uh, those different risks and management strategies in your how you manage your risks while you're planning. If you are taking on the proactive stance, so that's the third process in risk management. Then we have monitoring and controlling risks. And this involves tracking identified risks throughout the project life cycle and implementing risk response plans and taking corrective action as necessary. This ensures that the project remains on track and that new risks are promptly addressed. So, well, as you might identify the risks and also look at their likelihood and impact on the project. You should devise ways of continuously monitoring these risks. Uh, so when you identify these risks, when you monitor and identify these risks, then you are able to proactively respond to them and also update your registers as you move forward. So some of the importances of monitoring and controlling risks is early detection of changes, and this leads to early and timely response to evolving risks, minimizing the impact on project objectives, and it helps prevent risks from escalating into larger issues that can disrupt the project progress. Then, with monitoring, you're able to provide a timely response to the risks because you minimize the likelihood and severity of the consequences associated with the identified risk. This also helps maintain project momentum and prevents schedule delays and ensures the project stays within budget. Then it ensures effectiveness of risk response. So once you monitor, you are able to your team is able to detect whether the chosen strategies are achieving the desired outcomes. So then you are able to adjust or refine your risk responses based on ongoing monitoring. Then you adapt to changing conditions. Flexibility allows project teams to adopt to changing circumstances and adjust risk strategies accordingly. But if you don't monitor your risks, then you won't be able to do that. And this enhances the project resilience and likelihood of achieving success despite external uncertainties that may arise. Then, stakeholder communication and confidence. Uh, of course, communicating these risks as based on the monitoring and controlling processes or data that you might have to the different stakeholders enables them uh, also trust the institution's ability to manage the different risks effectively and deliver project objectives. Uh, I've seen this happen really in projects where we've been working with the districts uh, in Uganda, and what really happens is, for example, in the health sector, once you know that uh, uh, say there's a likelihood of stock out of certain commodities or supplies, uh, then you are able to inform the different districts and the stock, or you can even monitor and look at where which districts have a stock and which ones have stock outs, and then get from the districts with stock to to provide a buffer for the ones without a stock, and that is all part of risk management, monitoring, and controlling. Then compliance and governance is another importance of monitoring and controlling risks. So adherence to compliance and governance frameworks reduces legal and regulatory risks and protects the organization from potential liabilities. And this keeps the organization reputation and uh, credibility uh, up. So, what are some of the challenges in risk management? Of course, there's that uncertainty and complexity. Projects operate in complex and dynamic environments characterized by uncertainty, which makes it challenging to anticipate and assess all potential risks accurately. You cannot know all the risks, so that is why while you are planning, you should take on both the proactive and reactive approach or stance. So this uncertainty can lead to incomplete risk identification because you don't know really what is going to happen. So you can't. You end up working in inaccurate risk with an inaccurate risk assessment, and it becomes difficult for you to predict the likelihood and impact of the risk. We've seen that there's qualitative analysis tools that are used or techniques, and this subjectivity and bias uh, can lead to risks. People not identifying the risks, perceptions, and also even human beings. We have limitations as humans, and this results in inconsistent risk evaluations. Whereas we do try to evaluate the risks and their likelihood and impact of the project, you might overlook certain risks or overemphasize others and lead to suboptimal risk management in the end of it also. That's a challenge that you need to know as project managers out there. There's a challenge of lack of data and information, which I think is a big challenge here in Africa, since we have limited available data. And sometimes you find that even the quality of the data itself is not that up to standard. And sometimes we also have information uh, asymmetry issues where uh, information is not being shared amongst uh, other different stakeholders or even institutions. And this can hinder the accuracy and reliability of the risk assessment because you don't have all the information and even the decision making process. So this insufficient data uh, may lead to incomplete risk analysis. Then also difficult in quantifying the risks if you are going to use uh, quantitative risk assessment methods, and then reliance on assumptions, which increases the uncertainty surrounding risk management efforts. You may assume that you have all the information, but when you don't. We have another challenge, which is resistance to change. Uh, we did look at this, how we can address this when we're looking at our project communication management. So this resistance to change may be within the organization or the project team, and it can also impede the implementation of risk management processes and the adaptation of risk mitigation strategies. We did see this uh, during the COVID pandemic, and even after, whereas most of the African institutions and most which actually believe that a person should work from office uh, resulted into many individuals catching what COVID and also and resulted in severe lockdowns. So with this resistance to change, it results in inadequate allocation of resources to risk management activities. So instead of institutions strengthening their technological component, uh, it became hard. The allocation of resources became harder for the institutions, and the institutions ended up having a lot of challenges. There was a lack of. There is also lack of commitment from key stakeholders, and a failure to integrate risk management into project practices effectively. So when there is that resistance to change, that is what really happens. Then we have stakeholder communication and engagement, uh, where poor communication and stakeholder engagement can lead to misunderstandings. misalignment of risk priorities, and lack of support for risk management efforts, which undermines the effectiveness of risk management process. So uh, once there is that poor communication, uh, people do not understand why an institution or a project is taking on or making changes that are intended to address our risks, then uh, that is likely to happen. And you'll find that there's misalignment and people don't understand what is priority and what isn't. Then there's also resource constraints. Uh, this results in prioritizing urgent project tasks over management activities, inadequate staffing for risks analysis, and insufficient funding for risk response measures, which compromise project resilience to risks. And you will find that many institutions do not really uh, say plan for human resources to analyze these risks. And you find that once these risks do actually happen, then the projects are heavily impacted negatively. Then there's overcoming complacency, and this can lead to neglecting risk management practices, uh, understanding the likelihood and impact of the potential risks, and even being unprepared to address unforeseen events. Also increases vulnerability of the projects to failure. So, what are some of the best practices that we can implement even with these many challenges in risk management? One is establish a risk management framework. I'll ensure that I show you a sample of that. And this is basically a structured framework that defines the policies, procedures, and responsibilities for risk management within the project and departments. This also provides an approach to identifying, assessing, and responding to risks. Ensures consistency and alignment across the project and departments. Then identify risks early and continuously, and this goes in line with monitoring and controlling for risks. Uh, this enables proactive risk management, allowing sufficient time to develop and implement risk strategies while minimizing potential impacts on the project objectives. We talked about involving the different stakeholders and the benefits. Then prioritize the risks. You should focus your resources and attention on managing higher priority risks. Monitor and control that we've talked about. You should really monitor and control your risks. You should have mechanisms in place uh, during your performance reviews uh, to also look at the different risks and how you can mitigate them. And foster risk aware culture. This can be through communicating the different risks that are out there that may impact the organization or the institution. For example, for institutions working in the humanitarian sector, it is a requirement uh, for all parties involved within the project to know about the different services like that may impact the reputation of an institution like sexual harassment. Then also other measures. There may be risks that impact the institution. There may be regulatory risks. Uh, for example, you might be implementing projects, and there are elements, yes, that the donor is supporting, but you know uh, uh, they are not really in line with the regulations of the country, or they somehow a little bit of differ. Then you should inform the different project stakeholders or teams. Sometimes it may be even communication, uh, foster that awareness, and these different team members know who is should communicate, and what should they talk about. Who should they escalate the questions that are being asked about the project and the like uh, within your institution or within your project as a project manager. Then document and communicate the different risks. Um, I know institutions sometimes follow, for example, here in Uganda, they follow teller alert rates, say, or even natural disaster alert rates, these are communicated by unfortunately embassies like the US embassy and British embassy. But you should have those documented, and then you communicate to your different teams. For example, recent there was an alert last year in Uganda that there are likelihoods of ADF attacks uh, in Kasese district, and the institution I was working with informed us, and no one actually did. The operations were halted, meaning that the risks were avoided. So staff couldn't move to that area until those alert levels had been communicated to be minimal or low. Then learn from experience, uh, draw lessons learned from different challenges that you faced implementing risk management strategies, and then document and document them, and also integrate them into project plans. So basically, that is it about risk management. While we prepare for the questions and answers, I wanted to look for that sample risk register such that members can be able to track.
In the meantime, members, you can uh, sign the attendance register, sign the virtual attendance register in the chat section, even as we plan to conclude.
Okay, so there is this. Um, so this is a sample risk register. And, as you can see, with this, it has a different risk types. Hope you can see my screen. Uh,
Yes, we can see.
yes, it has the different risk types. It has actual risk impact. It has a description and potential number of people that can be impacted, and then it defines who will own the risk. Then it still has the element of likelihood, impact, and level. Then mitigation measure. So it has what we're calling retained risks that are may that may have happened from previous projects or previous experience, and they're likely to happen once again, and I are still measuring them. Uh, then it has how you target or avoid the different strategies that you use to mitigate that risk, and escalation. And as you can see, this was being tracked across different time frames on a monthly basis. So I felt it was key for members to see what a risk register looks like. So basically, that is it. I don't know if you have any questions or comments for me.
Thank you, Mr. Koloba, for your comprehensive presentation. I'm very much grateful for that, and I have really gained a lot. And hoping that these slides, if you don't mind, if you can get them, though I know Diana will have to share them. I will share the link for us. That is great. Um, I want to ask a question. You are giving an example on a Ugandan situation whereby something comes up, but it's against the authorities, or the authorities are not in agreement with it, like the LGBTQ. When we are talking of strategies to avoid such, one of the strategies avoiding, you don't have to implement that project in Uganda, LGBTQ, and that one is, if not worldwide, but in Africa, we know that Uganda LGBTQ is a no-go zone. Now, another strategy you have talked of mitigating. How do you mitigate a project that is not going to be there? That's my concern.
Um, Thanks, Mr. Robert, for your question. Actually, I would say that yes, the law says it's non-existent, but there are scenarios. For example, when you're working with HIV, if you're working on an HIV project, uh, we know that from experience, these people are more likely to catch HIV. Uh, so they will integrate that within the service delivery, and focus would be on providing friendly services to such people, because you find that most health providers don't actually want to provide such, or wouldn't want to engage with such people. I'll give another example. For example, in Uganda, abortion is illegal, but post-abortion care is legal. So that means that a young girl out there or a teenager who should initiate and uh, and then go to the health facility. So uh, uh, you'll find that the donor says no. Instead of having these people initiate using unsafe methods, uh, let's try to mitigate that, because when you look at still in project planning, we have that cost benefit analysis. uh, the cost is a young girl losing a life, and the benefit is that once they are supported, and there are friendly services or friendly health facilities that can support that, even though it is illegal, then they can meet that. For example, even with LGBT catching HIV, some of them are bisexual. You find that the cost still is high, and you'll find that say the LBG, this bisexual person catches HIV, and transmits it to uh, say a partner, and then the partner transmits it, and then it comes knocking at your door. So sometimes those are some of the costs and benefits that you have to weigh in, and see that okay, okay, this is government isn't supporting this, but let's engage and support.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Any other question? Any other question or comment? Hello. Any question or comment on risk management?
Okay. Let me add something on. Let me ask something on methods of risk management when it comes to SWOT: strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats.
Mm.
Um, though you've explained about them, I want to know how you can help to mitigate the risks using the SWOT analysis.
Yes. So with SWOT analysis, uh, the focus here is now on the threats, and you're looking at those threats, and analyzing them as potential risks, and then you are still gauging them, looking at the likelihood to happen, uh, their impact on the project, the like and the like. So instead of looking at the strengths, you can also look at also the weaknesses. So the focus here is basically on threats and weaknesses, and from that you are able to identify the different or potential risks that may uh, impact the project.
Okay, thank you very much. And also in this one, I don't know. Anyway, that one is on marketing. I don't want to bring it into this. Okay, fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Koloba, for that.
Okay. Any other question or comments? Feel free to unmute and speak through the mic.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Faith. So I'd like to ask a question, by taking the risk, whatever, with the risk management or whatever you have been talking about. So my question is, when you are identifying the risks, are you do just identify, or it depends with the project that you are undertaking?
Okay. The process we said involves identifying, and we talked about the different tools and techniques that are used in identifying these risks. So once you've identified the risks, then you move on to uh, plan for you analyze the different risks. So once you've analyzed the different risks, and here we are basically looking at their likelihood. Uh, we are looking at their likelihood to impact the project. So once we've done that, then we come up with a response or contingency plan to address the different risks. So once you have that contingency plan in place, you implement it, and then you start monitoring uh, and evaluating the risks. Hope I've answered your question, Faith.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much.
Any other question or comments? Okay. If there are no questions or comments around risk management, next week we shall be looking at project procurement management, and we shall look at the different processes and the different best practices and challenges that. Yes, Mr. Obwal Pius.
I wanted to ask, what if the response plan creates is likely to yield into another potential risk? As a program manager, how do you deal with that in the shortest time possible? Have you
Response.
come across such a practical experience where you you have a contingency plan to address potential risks, but it emanates into another risk in the shortest time possible?
Yes, that's happened. Uh, in Uganda, there were changes. Initially, NGOs used to buy drugs for projects that are implementing, and they need to provide these medicines. And it happened that there was a stock out of essential medicines, and the NGOs contingency plan couldn't work because the contingency plan they had was to get these drugs acquire them and distribute them themselves. But initially that was possible. But during that phasing out of NGOs directly distributing drugs, what happened is that there was a stock out, and NGOs couldn't actually provide these drugs. Yet the health providers are always asked team members if they could actually provide these drugs, or because of the previous experiences that the NGOs usually brought these drugs. Even the providers themselves were reluctant sometimes to place their orders. Uh, it was really a chaotic scenario where providers were not making orders because one, they didn't have the skills to make orders uh, uh, at a facility level. Then the other was that even the districts themselves, uh, at the district level, there is always there are health facilities that cannot make orders, but they have to receive through other health facilities. So what really happened is that, like you said, she sometimes flexibility is key in risk management. Uh, we had to just work with the districts and support them. Uh, use their vehicles course, for them, they are government now. It is now government to redistribute these medicines. But the scenario was really chaotic because initially NGOs were getting these medicines and providing them to health facilities that were supporting. But then the regulation comes in and says NGOs, if you are to make procurement for drugs, then those drugs should go through the national medical stores if they are to be delivered. But then at the facilities, people are not receiving the services. So what do you do? Contingency plan is to work through the districts, and then the other capacity building came in at later stage. So that is a scenario maybe where a contingency plan does not work, but then sometimes you just have to really be really flexible and take on the task as it is and address it. Hope I've answered your question, Mr. Ogwal.
Yeah, thank you. Gave me an insight. Thank you so much.
Any other question or comment?
Hello.
Yes.
I wanted to ask concerning the mitigation where you use the third party to help uh, mitigating the risks.
Sorry, Mr. Morris.
On how to handle the third, how to use the third party in handling risks of the organization.
30-30 strategy.
Yes.
I can't say that I've used that before.
Yes.
But hopefully someone on this platform can support us. Anyone who's used the 30-30 strategy?
I think the third party platform where a platform where you can use a third party is where you do the risk transfer. That is where you can use
Oh.
let's say like insurance firms to take over the risk that is being incurred by the project.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Morris, I had not understood the question. Where you use a third party?
Yes.
Oh, those scenarios.
For risk
Those
management.
Yes, those are scenarios really happen. For example, even there's an example I can give of technology where the institution say does not have the resources, the funds, say to host say a platform. It may be a data management platform, it may be a management information system platform, and they don't have the resources, they don't have the servers because these servers may be expensive. Then they can always they can always they can always subscribe, get a third party service provider to support on this. Uh, it may be logistical. Say institutions that are conducting research projects, and you are working with very many research assistants, and the institution that cannot provide say vehicles for all. Then you use uh, hired vehicles, and with this you're transferring the risks of even having these even research assistants, because in terms of insurance and all that uh, uh, covered by third party. Then sometimes institutions hire labor, like consultancy firms. I know usually have this labor, and they come in to do the work, and this may be this reduces it may reduce on risks, say, of paying for very many people insurance coverage, but rather have an insurance company take on that when it comes to research, say, labor hire to conduct certain tasks. So, yeah, that really happens in many cases where you just transfer that risk to third parties.
Okay.
Mm.
To add on top of what you have said, an example can be derived from the elections that have happened in two past general elections in Kenya. You could see the national government or the electoral commission was passing some of the risks to external hosts, server hosts in other countries, so that they bear the risks of ensuring that the system is up and running. So I
Mm.
think that is also another example that can be given in our local context.
Thanks. Thanks,
Okay.
Doctor. Mr. Morris, hopefully we've responded to your scenario of using third
Yes.
party. All right.
Yes.
Any other question or comments? All right. Thanks, members. Our time is fast spent. We are 16 minutes into this session. Next week, we'll be handling project procurement management. Uh, Diana will be Diana and Sylvia will be communicating with the platform. Have yourselves a great Sunday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much for that insightful session. Let us give a round of applause. I'm already seeing members are already doing that. Yeah, thank you so much for the session. I appreciate every member who was able to join us today, despite of the short notice. I bet we have at least achieved one or two from this session. So if you are unable to join when we got started, we will share the presentation as well, and you're free to ask the trainer questions because it's also in the group. You are also free to extend this discussion further. Remember to fill the attendance register. Remember to input your feedback, and we'll see you in the next training. So thank you so much, guys, for joining in, and remember to sign the attendance register, and you're free to leave.